Hello and welcome to Won't Be Forgetting That, a podcast talking about all of the most awkward and embarrassing moments of people working in the arts and entertainment industry. I'm your podcast host, Seb Muirhead, and today we have a guest. They are a comedian, a podcaster, a writer, Josh Earl.
Hello, thanks for having me, Seb.
No, thank you very much for coming on, mate. Now, you're one of the comedian guests that we've had on the podcast before, and I found it's pretty hit or miss whether comedians actually are embarrassed or find anything awkward anymore.
I was finding that when I was coming up with what I was going to talk about, going, well, in comedy, I haven't been embarrassed much on stage. If I do, I kind of, it's the thing where you use it. And even when you're going through an embarrassing thing, you're like, well, I'll get something out of this. This will be a story.
I've had that a fair few times. I've come from an acting background myself, and on set, I'm like, I've really fucked that, but it'll be really funny to talk about afterwards. Yeah. But I also do a lot of things where I'm like, this is so fucking embarrassing. I just want to curl up in a ball and die. So are you in the embarrassment camp or not?
Depends what it is. I don't like being yelled at.
Yes, me too.
I will go red and get embarrassed and shamed at that. But like if
Have you been yelled at a lot in comedy?
Not in comedy, but sometimes...
Just day to day?
Sometimes... Yeah, not really. No, I haven't been yelled at.
Yeah.
I've always tried to avoid being yelled at.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's people on sets that can be quite stressful.
Yeah, I fucking hate that.
And that passive aggressiveness where you're like, just say it. I'd rather you just say it so I can move on and we can both get
they're
to a
looking
point
at you, they walk away and have a little whisper to somebody, and then you both look at you, and then we'll be like, all right, guys, just from now on, we're not going to do this thing. You're like, just tell it quietly to me. I'm
currently working, I work at the project and I do audience warm-up there, and I've only just started doing it.
Yeah.
And it's been, hey, can you come and do this? All right. Do I get training? Come and watch someone do it.
The best kind of training.
And so I just watched one person do it, which was the person who they employed me to replace.
Oh.
They were fine doing it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, I'll do that. And then the first day of doing it, because I've got the headphones on, the cans on, and the director's upstairs just, calling everything. And he just goes, where's the applause there? And I'm like, well, I didn't know there was meant to be applause there. And then I hear people going, who's on warm-up? And they went, Josh is on warm-up. And they're like, well, he should know better. I'm like, it's my first time. Like, I've worked on the show for 6 years, but not in this role.
No.
And also, just because I write for the show doesn't mean I'm going home watching the show and go, all right, there's an applause break after these things every time. Yeah, so it was that thing going, just tell me.
Yeah.
Then rather say, anyway.
Like presumed you knowing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And for anyone that doesn't know as well, like audience warm-up, what do you want to explain? You probably have a little bit of a better idea than I do.
It's a thankless job where if you do it well, no one thanks you. If you do it badly, you'll get told.
Oh, instantly,
Yeah. And pretty much what it is the audience come in and it's free for the audience.
Yep.
And you go in there and you're like, right, you guys are super important to this show. You're the voice of the show. And it is really important because we've had 2 years of no audiences coming in.
Yeah, right.
And it feels weird. It feels weird. Yeah.
Rough watching some of them.
Yeah. And the show is one of those shows where big, gear shifts.
Yeah.
It'll go, sad news. All right, here's a story we found on the internet, which is quite funny.
Yeah.
And if the audience aren't on board, it does seem awkward.
Yeah.
And so you've really got to make sure, all right, this is the thing. And it's just that thing of trying to get energy in the room.
Yeah.
And so therefore the people on the panel feel comfortable and and that's what the role is, making sure the people on the panel are very comfortable.
And those shows are usually edited down to half an hour as well. But how long are you in the room for?
Well, this is live though.
Yeah.
So it's
that's a bit
an hour-long
then,
live show where I've worked on shows. I did warm up for a dance show, which only lasted 3 episodes. It was on Channel 10. It was called Everybody Dance Now. And it was their big thing that Channel 10 or whatever the company was, they created this. It wasn't a bought one from overseas, which was a tried and true show. It'd been tested like a pop idol,
think you
that
can
kind of
dance
stuff.
Kind of thing, yeah.
And this was their own one. And what it was like dance crews coming on and having dance battles against each other. And the audience had these devices on them. If they swung it one way, that would vote for one team. If they swung it the other way, it would vote for the other team.
Oh, geez.
But the audience didn't know how these things worked. And I don't know. And so a lot of them were there also because their friends were in the crews.
That's the only way you get anyone to a dance battle as well. No offense as well. Absolutely fantastic dancers, but nobody goes along to just watch dance.
No. But so the people who were there to watch their friends dance were like, well, I'm not voting for either of these because I don't want my friends to get beaten.
Yeah, right.
And so my job was to make sure that everyone voted. And we had to do 3 or 4 takes going, no, you have to vote.
Yeah.
You have to vote. You can't. And then you had to clear set. This was like, so Jason Derulo was one of the
Oh, wow,
judges,
yeah,
and
nice.
Kelly Rowland from from Destiny's Child.
Yes.
She was the other judge. And so she came out in one. I watched once, and then I did it once, and then it got cancelled. It was
Right.
great. But I watched, and so Jason Derulo came out at the start, did a dance, and went, all right, I'm going to go have a shower and get changed. And the crew's going, we're already 2 hours behind. You can't. And he's like, I'm not sitting there sweaty.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair enough as well.
Fair enough, yeah. And then Kelly Rowland was like, well, if he's getting changed, I don't like this outfit. I'm going to get changed. So
And she danced?
no, she
Oh,
was
just
just
didn't
sitting
like the
there on the
outfit.
panel.
Oh,
and so
right.
she's like, I don't like this outfit. Now I've seen it on the screen. I'm going to go get changed. So then when they came back, they had to do the whole thing again. And her pickups of reacting to Jason's dance because she was like
She was
in a
wearing
different, outfit.
yeah.
And so anyway, it was like 6 hours long. And I had the director in my ear yelling because people were leaving.
Yeah.
It's like, stand in their way. Don't let them go. And I'm like,
Jesus Christ.
And I'm on the mic going, I'm 5'7". I can't stop these people. If they want to go, I can't.
Also, I think that's a criminal
Hold them
act.
hostage,
I
yeah.
genuinely think
Yeah.
that is entrapment or like a kidnapping.
Yeah.
like,
but
you can't do that.
It was one of those things. It was just like an absolute nightmare. I get there,
Yeah.
and they'd only done 2 episodes, and people were just leaving the show going, no, I'm not working on this show. This is
That's
terrible,
brutal.
terrible, terrible. And then it got cancelled the week after. So
Yeah,
I was
that
like,
does sound like some Australian TV as well, to be absolutely fair with you.
oh, so bad.
Very poorly thought out. But like, again, it's nice to get the work, isn't it?
It was nice. It was nice.
Maybe not nice in the time, but again, a good story for afterwards.
Yeah.
So you can't complain. But at least you got paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And didn't get yelled at.
And didn't get yelled at, which is
Yeah,
nice. And you didn't have to fight anyone to keep them in the room as well.
No.
Yeah. But so like it's with that kind of those kind of things sound horrible, but with all the other kind of just your general stand up and bombing and stuff like that, it's just par for the course.
Yeah.
So which we've found with plenty of friends of the show that they've come on before and just be like, yeah, it happens all the time. And then some other people that just have like literally no shame, which is a positive. I wish I was like that a bit.
Yeah, it's bombing on stage is kind of hard, but
Yeah.
you do get used to it, and you realize it's interesting because sometimes you bomb with new material. And, well, that's just I just need to work on it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you bomb with material that you know works.
Yep.
And so you like can kind of brush off, go, well, it wasn't me. It's not the material.
It's you guys that are wrong. This is funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, sometimes you like go. It used to be the thing. The audience. It's never the audience's fault. It's
Yep.
always my fault. And then sometimes, like, no, it's a lot of factors. It could just be
Yeah.
the venue wasn't like set up right.
Yeah.
It's whatever it is.
It
Like,
is amazing sometimes. Like, and it sounds like, oh, poor little performers complaining. But you're like, if you're not turned up loud enough for people to hear you,
Yep.
you're like, well, obviously they're not going to laugh. They can't hear a fucking thing I'm
Yep.
saying. And there's so many different little things like that. Or if people turn up and they don't know it's going to be a stand-up night, or
Yep.
like it's the same with theatre as well. People turn up and they don't know what it's going to be, and you're like, all right, this is like an acquired taste. This
Yeah.
isn't for everyone. And it's the same sort of thing with music. If you're like, I'm just going to go watch some music tonight and just turn up to whatever, and
Yeah.
you're like, it's either death metal or like classical.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, there's lots of different styles of everything as well.
My thing with when I do shows in comedy festivals, I always make sure I sit in the seats. Like I go and sit because comedy festival you're back to back with other performers.
Yeah.
So like I'll go and see the show before mine.
Oh, nice.
Just so I feel one, it's to support the other person, but
Yeah.
really I'm sitting in there going, what does it feel like to be an audience member in this room?
Yeah.
Because sometimes the seats are so uncomfortable, or you're so squished next to someone that you don't feel safe
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. And so it's nice to know how the audience are going to be feeling when they're watching you, because you're so centered on yourself up there
Yeah.
and going, oh, the light's right, the sound right, all that kind of stuff. But sometimes like it could just be that the seats are really, really uncomfortable.
And that's like 9 times out of 10 is every
Yeah.
fucking show. Like comedy show, theatre show,
Yeah.
anything that you have to sit down in for more than an hour. They've just made the seats either back in the 1920s for a lot of theatres in Melbourne,
Yeah.
or theatres everywhere.
Yeah.
Or they've just got all those folding out chairs, which like, I'm 35 and admittedly like I throw my body around a bit as a stunt performer, but like it's fucking killing my back about 20 minutes in, and then I'm trying not to shuffle because I don't want to be too loud, and then I'm just sweating profusely as well because I'm always too warm in those rooms.
Yeah.
So you're not always concentrating on what you should be as
Yeah.
well as the show.
When bombing, though, the other bad thing about bombing is when you come off and another comedian will say, oh, don't worry about it. It's
Yeah.
like, at least let me say I know that was shit first. Because I know you've all been back here watching going, oh, this is bad, this is
Yeah.
bad. At least let me come back and go, that was fucked, I was fucked, or they were fucked, or whatever it was.
How is it in the old comedy world for people being like, that was fucking horrendous, and then talking about whoever's bombing, and then just being like, as soon as they come off, being like, oh, it wasn't so bad, or just like talking behind everyone's back a little bit, I suppose.
Yeah, it happens, but
Yeah.
it's not so much that wasn't so bad. It's just don't bring it up.
Yeah, okay.
Or you lie and say, I didn't watch it. Sorry, I was out in the other room. They sound quiet.
Yeah.
That's all you need to say.
Same with theatre as well. You're just like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Or oh man, it was a different story.
I mean, what I normally do is if I know someone's bombed, I try and think of one good thing about their set and say, oh, I love this joke.
Yeah, that's nice.
such a great joke.
Yeah.
And so they can go, oh, cool, the writing's good.
Yeah, you're like, fuck, one part at least worked then, I suppose. And it's a lot of the time as well, people always play for their like peers rather than the audience.
Yeah,
which are like, well, a comedian like that part. So yeah, these audience, they're fucking plebs. They don't know anything.
Yeah, that's a real young comic mistake though, to go, I've got 5 people at the back of the room laughing and it's all the other comics on. It's like,
none of them are paid for this.
No, I know.
They're not going to be the ones supporting your career.
There's some comedians who that's their whole, like, that's all they want to strive for. I want the comedians at the back of the room laughing. He's like, yeah, but there's other people here who have paid money to see it. These guys aren't going to give you any money ever.
No, I'd like, if anything, they're going to take money from you. But yeah, you've got your adult like stand-up and comedy shows as well, but you do a fair bit of kids shows too.
Yes.
How do you find kids as audiences?
I really like kids audience. I like doing kids shows because for a lot of them, they've never been to a show before. Yeah. And so they don't realize that you can actually make noise or you actually like laugh or talk back while I ask a question. Yeah. And so the first 10 minutes of every kids performance I do is me really talking a lot to the kids and getting them comfortable in the space. Yeah. And so this year I did it over at the Kew Courthouse, which is a nice little black box theatre, but it just, because in the previous years I've done kids shows at like for Comedy Festival and in their venues, which is the Town Hall. Yeah. Great venues, but they don't feel kid friendly. Like when you're walking in there as a little kid, you're like, this is
intimidating.
Big, intimidating, huge, big ceilings, like marble stone steps. It's all this kind of stuff.
As an adult, you're in there, and you're like, and there's just like everybody's face plastered on the wall. So you've just got these millions of eyes looking at you as soon as you come in. Yeah. Yeah. And
so the Spiegelten's great, but like,
love it.
Yeah. That's a lot of money.
So much money.
And so I was like, I'll go where the families are. So at the Kew, that's where families are. And it just seemed nice. And so the people who organised that venue were really smart, and they said, we'll have little tables and chairs and we'll have like crayons and pens and the kids can come in early and draw and all that. And nice. And it was just makes so much sense when you're going, the thing is, the good thing about kids' audiences, they're very honest as well, though, because they haven't paid for a ticket. Yeah. So they don't care if they're not, they'll just go, this is boring. They'll say it. They'll talk out loud. Yeah. They'll
tear you apart.
They'll rank which songs or jokes are better. They're like, I didn't like that one. Not as good as the other one. So I had this device in my show where I had, my nan was like calling throughout the show and interrupting the show. And that was part of the thing was going. And so I did it in Bendigo, and the nan only called twice. Okay. And that's all she calls. She just calls twice. And the kids are like going after the second one, make the nan call again. I want your nan to call. And I'm like, I'm telling you now, she's not going to call. Yeah. There's no, and she's like, leave your phone on. I just want, and I'm like, she's not going to call. And and
it's
so
just
that they
the lack of like social understanding as well, but then also theatrical understanding. Where you're like, I wouldn't go and see a show and be like, this is obviously scripted.
But it's so funny though, because the parents are like, afterwards, they're like, oh, that was tough. I'm like, no, that was great. I love that. That's like, the kids were interacting. They were actually...
At least they're doing that. That's part of the show. They're not just sitting there like punching their friend or something like that.
It's like, there's so many bad kids shows where it's like, all right, we'll get some dancers in a costume and we'll play a backing track.
Josh, I've been in those shows.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, so there's a really great festival in Perth called the Awesome Arts Festival for Kids. And every year they have people going, oh, well, there's nothing my kids, there's no Paw Patrol, there's no like Dora the Explorer. And the woman who runs it, Jenny, she's like, no, because they can, it's not going to be a good show. We want them to actually have a good experience of seeing the theatre or seeing comedy or seeing music, and not just, oh, I've seen some flashing colours and I know the songs already.
Oh, it's a big dog. Yeah. And then like, that's it. The initial like amazement by it. And then it's just like, what now? Yeah. Can I pet it? No. Okay.
The best kid story, it's not my story, and I won't say the name of the performer, but
nice.
they did a thing where they pretended to sleep on stage, and they were on a chaise and they had their eyes away from the kids. Yep. And one of the kids just walked up on stage and just poked her fair in the asshole. Like,
Jesus Christ.
And they woke up and they were like, they asked the next time, they're like, the next show, hey, ushers, can you make sure that no one walks on? I don't want to be a diva about this, but your job is to make sure that kids don't walk on stage when I can't see. Like, I
feel like that's a fair enough thing to ask for in your writer as well. Yeah, no fingers inserted into me, please, would be nice. But it is like that kind of thing as well, because kids are like, they'll just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think that comes from a malicious place a lot of the time.
No.
Sometimes it
Sometimes,
does.
yeah.
Sometimes they are little shits. But for the most part, they're all just like, wow, this is fun. Like exploring things and maybe the wrong things in that case. But like, they're just like, they're so excited. And then like, they're just brutal as well. Because like what you were saying, like if they don't like a joke or anything like that, they'll just tear you apart. And it's some of the most honest feedback.
Yeah, because they're not invested. Like they haven't financially invested in the show.
No, they have no understanding of that.
It's like if you get free tickets or something, you go there and you're like, oh, okay, I'll stick around. Or maybe I'll go and get dinner early. But if you've actually paid like $25 to it, you're like, oh, all right, well, I paid $25. I want to get my money's worth. I'm going to sit down and actually enjoy this.
But yeah, and then like with kids, it'll be like, none of that. And then also it's just like, well, I can scream out during the show because I don't understand why I'm not allowed to. I do it at the telly at home. This is the telly, right? Yeah. So yeah, I found it a fair few kid shows I've done myself as well. And then growing up in Scotland, it's just fucking pantomimes all the time.
Of course.
Which is like, it's great because like the kids are so interactive and they are screaming and they're having a great time. But then every now and again, there's just like, and Scottish kids are a little bit of a different breed, I'd say. They're just fucking brutal, and like little 8-year-olds will be like, "Oh, you're shite!"
Yeah,
and you're like, you're not wrong, man.
See,
not
having
wrong.
done kid stuff for like almost 15 years now, what I don't like is that whole, and pantomime does this all the time, which is like, what, and just getting the kids, and it's like, it's really disrespectful to the kids. It's almost like saying, all right, your voices don't count. We're not even going to hear your voices when you scream. And I understand it's fun to get kids yelling out. I totally get it. It's getting energy in the room. But when I was writing mine, I was like, I'm not going to fall into the trap of just pretending I can't hear them.
Well, that's all it is. It's just easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, I'm not investing anything here. I'm just making them scream as loud as they can. Then maybe they'll tire themselves out and I'll be able to get on with the show.
Yeah.
So like, that's every pantomime as well. Yeah. And then like we had, this episode hasn't come out yet. But one of the episodes, Scottish performer as well, I was saying, you're just throwing like sweeties into the crowd at the end of it as well, just to placate them. Yeah. He almost like piffed a child straight in the face with one as well. But like, it's just those kind of things where you're like, here's a treat for having to like sit through the show. And you're like, the show should be the treat, right? That's the thing. The show should be the treat.
Yeah.
But sorry, we've spoken enough, or I don't know, maybe I've just complained enough about all my past shows. We'll get into the stories. So usually what I like to do with this is like leave the quote unquote worst story for last. Okay. So we get all of these creeps hanging on to the very end of the show. But if there's any particular way that you want to tell them or any sequence, we've had some people just chronologically, we've had some people like if there's groups of stories that you're wanting to put together.
All right.
The nudity-based ones always kind of group together. I don't know whether you have any of them or not. But yeah, like people like to group them together sometimes. So I was just wondering if you have a particular way you'd like to tell them, or we have any order in particular.
I've got the order. I'll leave one for last. Yeah, cool.
Nice.
All right. So it's funny when you're a comedian because people, even though I have a performing arts degree and acting degree, I never really tried to be an actor.
Yeah, that's smart.
But occasionally I'll get offered auditions for stuff like that. Like, we've seen you this, we think you'd be perfect for this role. And so I normally turn them down, but there was one, it was paying good money, and they're like, the client wants you.
Oh, wow, nice.
And so it was that thing of they rang me up personally and said, the client actually wants you to do it. So I was like, oh, this would be great. And so it was for Asus computers.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And they had this new laptop that was also a tablet, so that came apart. It was like a transformer is what it was called. Yeah. And so I did the auditions. I got the ads. It was great. Okay.
Nice.
It was really, and it was interesting because I knew other people going for it. And one of them said, I thought I did a great audition. So what did you do in the audition that made, I'm like, I think they just wanted me. I don't think it was,
man.
I don't think it was you. I think it was the client. It was just like, all right, we're going to do this. So this was when I say the client, this was the actual company making the ad, not the actual,
not Asus themselves. No. Yeah. So whatever the marketing company is. Yeah.
And so it was one of these ads. So because it was a transformer, it was split screen where I was acting against myself.
Oh, right.
So it was a full day shoot for Asus computers, and it was fun. And they like, we want comedy. This is what we want. This is why we got a comedian. We want comedy.
Makes sense.
And the company is Singapore based, and they did their research where Australian accents are trustworthy.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So in the Singapore market, they like Australian accents. And so I was like, cool. And they're like, so we really want we want to see Josh in the ad, not just the, and I'm like, great. And so they gave me the script. As always, so rushed those things. Like
I've never understood this, and I've asked so many people. It's like, for anyone that's not part of this industry listening as well, you get the audition maybe a week or two before the thing starts filming, and then it's like, are you available this date for costume fitting? Are you available this date for rehearsal? You're blah, 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 and you're like, how long have you known it? Like, can you not give us a bit more of time, like a heads up? Yeah.
And especially there was certain things we had to say in it. So we had to talk about the certain speakers, had to talk about the
tech
all that stuff.
Right,
but they're like, we'll get that. We'll maybe even do that in post. But we really what we want to see is you having fun with yourself, kind of like, and being cheeky and all that kind of stuff.
What does that mean then?
So it's that pretty much they want me to write bits for it.
Oh, fun.
And then play off against myself. Okay, so I do the whole, it was like 4 days. One of the days was go in and get costume and get photos and all that kind of stuff. And then it was like, all right, a whole day, start at 6 a.m, going till like 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And it was just in a warehouse pretty much.
Yeah.
And so when I get there, there's real tense. And I'm like, oh, what's happening? I said, the client, so ASUS, have just rocked up.
Oh, shit.
And they're like, they're in another room. Don't worry, I'll keep them away from you. So you can just concentrate on what you're doing, but I'll have to go every time we... And so they were watching the entire day on a little monitor in another room.
And for anyone, again, that doesn't really know the industry that well, that very rarely happens.
Yeah.
Especially like the people essentially buying it or paying for this.
Yeah.
That have a lot of vested interest, but maybe not the best idea of how film sets work.
Yeah.
Don't always create the best, and I'm not saying this for anyone that's going to employ me in the future, maybe don't create the best atmosphere on sets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so everyone was already a bit weird about it.
Yeah.
And because we were all, I was mic'd up and they could hear everything I was saying, so they couldn't.
Oh, so every little like burp or hiccup you do,
Yeah. And so we go through it and then we take it first take and it's like, all right, cool, we got that. I'll just go back. And they're like, all right, come back. And they actually, can you just like tone it down a little bit? Like, and I'm like, okay, so as in performance wise or the jokes? And I'm like, yeah, both. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And then after like an hour or so, it got to the point that it was like, they don't want any jokes now.
What?
They just want, because it was like a 30-second ad to play in cinemas in Singapore and Malaysia.
Oh, wow.
And so all they wanted was all the information. That's all they wanted. Like, and it took, but instead of them saying that, which would have been me going, great, cool, I'll just do that. I don't, who gives a shit? Like, they kind of did that thing where they wanted me to find that. And I'm like, just tell me. I don't care. Like, I know actors are like, no, I want it. This is the process. I want to get to it. But
I fucking hate that personally.
But when you're in an ad, you're like, we don't have time. Just tell me and I'll do what you want me to do.
Oh, even on a TV show or a film, I mean, like, just tell me if you want more sad or not. You don't have to try and explain this big thing. I'm not that smart. Like, just happy or sadder. That's all I need.
And so we're doing it. And then it got to a point where I had to take off the monitor screen of it and then put it back on easy as.
Yeah.
The device isn't easy as, okay? It's a clunky, and they're not going to employ me again. Yeah. It was a clunky piece of shit. Like, it just didn't go in, and they want me to slowly, like, take it off and then and not have to look like it's actually forcing it out, because I was trying to forcing it out and then trying to get it back in like a kid putting in a bloody, like, square in a circle thing. Like,
beforehand as well. Like, just make one, quote-unquote, that works.
Yeah. Like, just even have, like, just magnets and don't even worry about it having the real one. Just have it. Anyway, it was... Hell. And it's just, you know, when you're in a take and it's like, all right, take 5. Yeah. Take 6. And it's not because of what I'm getting wrong in my, like, script. It's because this isn't working. Yeah. But then I start getting in my head. Yeah. And then I'm fucking up words. Oh, fuck. And it was there was a camera guy there who was really not... I can't remember his name, but he just came and goes... I really enjoy what you're doing. You're doing this well. And I'm like, oh, thanks. I really needed that right now.
Fucking guys are jam. Yeah. Film sets need more of those guys, because especially like they can see a panic. I mean, because presumably they're like pretty solid like shot of your face. Yeah. You can see the little bits of panic setting behind the eyes. Fuck.
Yeah. And so we end up doing it. And then there's like half hour left of the day. We're just going to do this one thing. And then we get the client, ASUS, were like, people wandering around talking, whispering, and then the director comes in and goes, okay, just been told you've been saying ASUS wrong all day.
What?
And I'm like, what? And they went, can you come and talk to them, because I don't know what they're saying. And I'm like, okay.
Fucking hell. Talk about like throwing you under the bus. That is...
With half out of
Yeah.
film. And so I was like, all right, sorry. And they're like, it's Asus.
Yeah.
You've been saying Asus. And I was like, that's the same. And that's what the director's like, yeah, that's exactly what. And he goes, no, Asus, not Asus.
Yeah.
And so the slightest little thing, and I'm like, well, before today, I was saying Asus. And I think everyone in Australia said Asus.
I didn't know. When you said Asus to start off with, I was like, what the fuck is that? But yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Asus. And so I go, we do as much as we can.
Yeah.
And then the guy just gave me a dictaphone and went, just go in the car, say it every single way you can, and we'll slot it in post because I'm very close to just walking out on this set. And I'm like,
hell.
Okay. And so I just go, and I'm like, all pleasant and all nice.
Yeah.
But it's that thing of going, this is a morning thing, or even a day before, say, hey, just so you know, this is how our company's pronounced.
That's a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Like, that's not frantically trying to fix something at the end. And again, like, every company's different, but that's also why you don't have the company people on set.
Yeah.
Because it's so fucking...
But it was that thing of just going, there's a lot of money being spent on this ad. Yeah. And it comes down to... Even though doesn't come down to me, in that environment, every camera's fucking pointing at me, so it feels like it's all on me.
It feels like it's resting on your shoulders, right? And I hate that. And it's like, a lot of the time, especially like the marketing companies, they're really nice to work for. They fire these things out all the time.
Yeah.
It's not really their passion projects or anything like that. Like, they're in it for the pay, obviously.
Yeah.
So, like, when you get the clients coming down to set, and it's just the most terrifying thing in the world, and it creates such an unfriendly atmosphere, and then you're like, what do you want?
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Well, so the ad goes out. It's fine. It's showed. It's on YouTube and it's on cinemas, so no one even sees it. It's fine. But then, like, about 5 years later, I got another ad they wanted me to do, and then so it was the same ad agency.
Yeah.
And I went in and went, we still talk about that Asus ad. That was insane. That's never happened before. And I'm like, because that was my first ad. I just assumed all ads were like that. I'm like, no. That was the wildest thing we've ever had to deal with.
That's fucked.
Yeah. And so, but I got through it. It's all good.
And again, probably got paid quite nicely for it as well.
Got paid well.
Yeah.
For something that no one saw.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best part, huh?
Yeah.
My first ever ad in Australia got paid disgustingly little amount for what I would later find out is like what I should have been paid, like 20 times the amount for it, and it played fucking everywhere, and everyone was messaging me, and like, you know how, like, I don't know what you're like now, but your videos or something get posted online and they're not to your page, like the company will post them or someone else will post them. And you're like, oh, there's quite a lot of comments on this, should I read this? And I still do it now, and I shouldn't, but like, I read that one and everyone's like, this guy isn't Scottish, blah blah blah. It was for a Scotch whiskey, and like, just fucking tearing me apart, and I'm like, that's the one part of the ad that's real. Like, I don't know. I really got in my head about it, and then I was like, fuck, do I even sound Scottish now? And
I did an ad for yogurt, and in it I had to be like a gym influencer kind of thing, and they made me like real fake tan, like orange, like Donald Trump kind of stuff. But when it went out, the comments were like, why is he in blackface?
Oh, fuck.
And because someone had tagged me in it. And then everyone, that's... and so I was getting, why is Josh Earl in blackface?
Jesus
So I
Christ.
hit up the company going, hey, just so you know, this is what... And it got pulled. Never to be seen again, that ad.
Wow.
And it was just for the listener. It was just orange. Okay. It was not blackface. Whoever was watching it and saying this is blackface, that's to do with their like phone screen or something like that. They've got to set.
They're just being an arsehole
reset the
as
settings.
Well. You can just write anything you want on the internet, and like, it has ramifications. Sorry for yourself, but they're just like, it's funny.
And so that was.
That's also mildly terrifying as well. If somebody wrote that and be like, and I need to find a new career now. Because it wouldn't take much for like a news organization like a Daily Mail to go, blackface ad. Like, news.com.au, just come into it and you're like, fuck it, this is trash.
All they do is they do, if there's one like comment saying, and then like, Twitter outrage over this.
I know,
and
right?
It's just one person.
But they have their source for it. So they're like, it's true. And you're like, you fucking cunts. But that stuff's like, it's so upsetting. And then like, a lot of the time, I don't know how many TV commercial auditions that you do now, but I always feel like they're either like, and like, no offense to any of the casting agents out there, I very much appreciate you getting me in for them, but some of them I'm just like, this is a joke, right? Like, this isn't a real ad. This is just them all doing this. They get around at their Christmas party and then they just watch dickheads doing these ridiculous fucking things like at the end of the year. Because I've done so many of those ads where they're like, yeah, can you just take your top off and sit on this bench and pretend to be in a bath and wash yourself with money? And I'm like, yeah. And then I leave and I'm like, that didn't feel all right.
I had one for a play once I auditioned for, which was they gave me a lettuce and said, destroy the lettuce.
Oh.
So I just booted it and it like it just absolutely destroyed it. And I'm like, most people have been taking like 2 or 3 minutes to destroy it. I'm like, tell me I've got a time. You destroy this lettuce in 2 minutes, not just like, so
you know what I'd rather watch as well? A man boot a lettuce. Yeah. I don't want to see somebody try and deconstruct a lettuce whilst they're trying to pretend like it's their fucking father or something like that. It
was also for the Shakespeare play Timon of Athens. So it had nothing to do with the play.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. I've done so many of these contemporary theatre auditions as well, where they're like, all right, can you take your shoes and socks off? You need to feel the ground. And I'm like, I'm freezing cold.
Yeah.
My feet are disgusting. I have to like walk around and be guided by this other person who's moving my energy. And I'm like, just give me some lines to say. I don't care about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's just, I've never been cast in any of them before, probably because I'm like, I don't know. I think acting can get a little bit too deep in itself, which I suppose like stand-up can a little bit in it as well, where you, like you are, I don't know, not being funny on purpose to show or to prove a point or something like that. I've seen a couple of bits like that, but acting, you can get real deep in the wank.
Yeah.
Especially theatre, man.
I think there's enough podcasts of comedians talking about their process that you realise that, there's a lot of comedians who take it too seriously.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. But I kind of like watching them sometimes as well as like car crash TV. Like it's just like, I kind of fucking enjoyed that, I'll be honest with you. Even just talking to a friend of the show, Ben Russell, a couple of weeks ago about watching like long form improv stuff. And I'm like, this is like the worst thing I've ever seen. But because it is the worst.
Yeah.
I quite like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You want it either to be the worst or the best. It's like 3-star show. I'd rather say a half-star show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that's the funny thing as well, because certain people take that now as like a badge of honor and they'll put that on the poster as a half star.
Yeah.
Whereas 3 stars, you're like, well, I can't use this.
No.
Like
it's a nil or draw.
Yeah, I know, right? And then you're like, well, that's maybe the worst review I could get for this show.
Yeah.
Whereas love it or hate it. That's what I want from shows, preferably love. But at least then that way people are going to remember it as well.
Yeah.
Nothing fucking worse than being like, yeah, I remember that show you came to see of mine a couple of years ago, and they're like, no.
Yeah.
What? No.
I always find the 3.5 star is actually the worst one because it's good.
Yeah.
But it's not poster worthy good.
No. No, you need the 4 or above, don't you? Yeah.
Or just that little half star. Yeah. It's like, oh, what happened? Was it the seats?
You see some. Yeah, that's it. I'm amazed sometimes by what firstly gets people into reviewing shows, like to become a reviewer, I should say. And then secondly, what they actually review on as well. Because I read this one review for my friend's thing once, and they were complaining about what people were talking about in the bar beforehand.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's nothing to do with the show.
Yeah.
That's nothing to do. Why are you complaining about these people having a problematic conversation?
I've had reviews in the past which like talk about the restaurants nearby where you can go and get dinner afterwards.
That's just fucking insane.
You've got like 200 words to write about my show. Yeah. Like I get it. It's hard to say, this is fine.
Yeah.
Like
you can just say that though. You don't have to fill the 200s.
Yeah.
But also you're like, you got a free ticket to a show, and like at the end of the day, people love you if you've written something nice about them or fucking hate you. Like you're a commodity.
Yeah.
As bad as that sounds. Anyway, swiftly moving on from that.
All right. My second story. Okay. So this one is a comedy one. So when I first started doing comedy, I would do musical comedy, and this was about 9 months into it.
Yeah,
and
right.
I'd not done that many gigs. I'd done about 4 in Launceston where I started. Then I did like 3 weeks in a row in Hobart, just doing 10-minute sets, and then moved to Melbourne. And in my second gig in Melbourne, Denise Scott, legendary comedian, was on as well. And she really liked my set. And afterwards, she's like, hey, I might have a gig for you. Give me your number. And so I was like, this is great. This is what I moved to Melbourne for, to make these connections.
Fuck yeah.
And so she called me up the next day and she's like, yeah, it's my cousin's footy club. I've done it in the past. Dave Carlin's done it. It's like they're a good bunch of guys. And she was really like step-toeing around. And I'm like, cool. And she goes, and it pays $500 cash. And I was like, wow, that is great.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, they want 20 to half hour, okay? And like, she goes, I've in the past done 20 and it's fine. So that's
okay.
And so I was like, great. I cannot, like, this is the most money I've been paid doing comedy. This is it.
That feels like the big breakthrough moment at that point as well, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's on a Sunday afternoon in the club rooms.
Ooh, okay.
And so I turn up with my guitar and like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, okay.
Yep.
And then I get on, so there's your stage, here's your mic.
Those are two positives at least to start off with.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing.
The only thing they didn't have was a mic stand, which is hard when you're playing guitar.
That's not ideal.
And so I was like, I kind of need a stand.
Yeah.
And they did the ring around and it's like 20, and they can't be fucked. This is for the girlfriends. This is for the wives.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
All the guys are going to be at the back of the room, and this is just for the girls to sit at the front and watch. And so they ended up getting a mop and bucket and some gaffer tape and just gaffering the mic to it.
How did that go?
Well, I got a laugh at the very start.
Okay.
And that was about the only laugh I got for the entire rest of the time. Because I was brand new at comedy.
Yeah.
So 20 minutes, I had songs.
Yeah.
But the songs were not footy club style.
Anthems.
Yeah, they're not songs at footy club. And look, bear in mind, this was 2004, okay?
Right, yeah.
So the ironic... how am I going to put this? I had a song called Homophobia is Gay.
Oh, okay.
And the thing was, it was all about... And it was like saying that saying stuff is gay is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. But they hated it. Absolutely. They didn't want to be taught lessons.
No.
Even though I thought it was quite funny, I thought the title was funny for 2004, for doing comedy for 9 months. And it was just death after death after death.
Jesus.
And looking at my watch just going, all right, I've got 10 more minutes. And because I was getting nervous.
Yeah.
I talk very fast anyway.
Yeah.
I was going way faster than I normally would have. I was bailing on bits, and this is something I would do early on in my career. Like if something wasn't going well, I'd just try and get off stage as quickly as possible by just getting rid of all the jokes from the story and just telling
perfect. So the stuff people came to hear,
and just this is the story, and then all the little bits that actually make it stand up.
Yeah.
I just get rid of them because I was nervous and go, I just want to get off.
Done a TED talk instead then.
And so I was doing that, and then I'd played one song, and then a guy at the back goes, well, that was better than the last one. I'm like, oh, did you like that one? He goes, I didn't say I liked it. I'm like, okay, all right.
Fuck, man, when the people in the crowd are getting more laughs than you are as well.
But the thing was, because it was $500 cash,
I
was like, this is going to pay, because I had a guitar that I'd wanted, and I was like, for the last 10 minutes of the set, I was like, I'm going to go, as soon as I leave here, I'm going to drive to that music shop, and I'm going to buy that guitar, okay? So that's what got me through it.
That's nice. Like, I think it's good to have goals and also to like reward yourself. I think is a big thing with this kind of stuff as well. Because so many people are like, oh, I got this job, but what's my next job and what's this? So little rewards throughout it help.
Yeah.
But then also like having to go 20 minutes is people are like, that's fucking nothing. Try and stand up in front of a crowd, which you're meant to be making laugh.
Yeah.
With like silence is rough, but if they're all just chatting up the back of the room and possibly shouting some questionable phrases at you as well at that point in time.
Well, at the end, so the club president came at the end to go, all right, give it up for him. Okay, he tried, didn't he? And then he said, look, we had 2 years ago, we had Denise Scott.
Yeah.
And after that, she's been on every TV show. I see her all the time. Last year, we had Dave Callan. And then he went on every TV show. Yeah. You never know. This kid, he might. I don't reckon, but he might. You might see him one day. And I was like, oh. And then it was that thing of going, I've got to get paid cash for this. So I can't just leave straight away.
No, you can't just pack up your mop bucket and run out the front door.
No, and so I was just staying around going, oh, how can I ask for cash?
What's the politest way to be like,
I don't like
please
asking
pay
for
me.
cash. Yeah. And then it was like, all right, come with me. Come with me. And he took me in the back room. And he had the envelope there and he goes, so you reckon you deserve that today?
Fucking hell. I mean, mate, that's like... Yeah. You're like, obviously I know I did badly. Yeah. Like, you don't need to rub salt in the wounds.
And that was a real moment of going, you don't have to say yes to every gig.
You're not the first person, and I'm going to say probably not the last person on this podcast to say that after a quote-unquote corporate as well, because so many other people have said that as well.
Well, you just know, okay, going into it, I was like an indie kid with and it was like, they're not going to like me.
Didn't have big football player energy.
Didn't have...
No.
Even though I grew up around football players, I went to theatre school. Yeah. Like, I didn't present as a football player.
I'm exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up soccer, football, whatever you want to call it back home, and like everybody played it. And I played it. I didn't watch it or anything, but everybody was into it. But I was that weird indie kid. I love the Libertines and I want to be in theatre.
Yeah.
So whenever you had to hang out, like I play a what we call a Ned, but like a chav or a little bam or whatever. I'd have to play that, and I'd be like, oh, I'm playing one of the ruffians, and everyone else there is like an actual little shithead, and you're like, I'm not really fitting in here.
Yeah, but I still have the guitar. I still like. I'm glad I did the gig because that guitar has been great. Had a good bunch of songs in that guitar.
Yeah, nice.
And then, but yeah, it's just that thing of going while you're in the act of it, just going, well, what am I going to spend this money on?
Yeah. That's also nice that you can have something at the end of it as well. Because if it was one of those things where it's like, we'll pay you $50, which I'm sure at the time you would have been like, fuck yeah, $50 as well.
Yep.
So at least at $500,
$50. I wasn't doing anything else on a Sunday afternoon. Exactly, might as well do it. Yeah.
Might as well get just put in your place by a whole football team.
Yeah.
The thing with musical comedies as well, like, whereas you hear a lot of people saying maybe the set's not going so well, so you'll start trying to interact with the crowd or trying to just make fun of people in the crowd.
Yeah.
You're kind of stuck in your songs as well, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's good and bad.
Yeah.
It's good that you can just go, well, this is just a song.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to, I know it goes to 3 minutes and I know,
Yep, that's fair.
Yeah. But it is that thing, if you do a musical song in a comedy night and it doesn't get a round of applause at the end, you've not done a good job.
No.
Like, there's the joke that it's a 6-string clapping machine. Like, because when I started, there was so much musical comedy when I started. So it was like Fly the Conchords were big, Tripod was big, Tim Minchin was big.
Of course, Bill Bailey as well.
Yeah, all those kind of stuff. Even like Stephen Wright would do it, Dimitri Martin would do songs, all this kind of stuff. And then you go, and then then it got to a point when I was like, I am embarrassed to be doing musical comedy. And
it's a rough one.
You'd get a few people saying, "You don't like you're funny enough to you actually just be a comedian." I'm like, I am a comedian. Like this is like and then I've come back around to it now. I mean, I haven't played guitar on stage for years.
Oh, okay, so that's somewhat put to bed then.
So since 2019, I haven't
COVID killed the guitar.
Yeah, I wanted just because I'd been doing it for 14 years, comedy, and then going, I don't want to be stale and just be doing the same old stuff. And so I still want to, try and get better at it. And so I was like, this is a great way to get better at it by just getting rid of the thing that you find easy.
Must be nice not having to bring a fucking guitar with you to every gig as well.
Yeah. Especially like most gigs in Melbourne anyway in comedy don't have anyone doing sound.
No.
So I've got to get there like half hour early and make sure I can plug it in, and then then when you're on stage, something else has happened. So you're like, I can't even plug it in now. And
I know.
So,
and then you have to leave it like sitting back in the green room, which a lot of just punters can walk into as well, or just drunk other weird comedians knock over.
Or what I would always do would leave my stand or lead on stage. So I had to wait until the very end. I couldn't just
sneak
get out. Like, and then
that'd be brutal, Yeah. And again, like, not that you don't want to not listen to everyone as well, but you're like, I've heard all these jokes before. Like, these are all my friends.
Or you've got to go to another gig.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Yeah. All right, so that's that one. All
right. The poor footy club. I think you're not the first person with a footy club story as well, and definitely not the first one with a horrible corporate as well. So I think it's again par for the course, and the reason people do them is because they pay fucking well. Hello. Now, before we get into our next story, I've got to tell you the main reason why I'm able to fumble through my awkward and embarrassing day-to-day occasions. Coffee. Now, fortunately for myself and all of the listeners, we have paired with one of Melbourne's best coffee companies, Coffee on Q, a coffee worth talking about. Get ready to caffeinate yourself through your next awkward moment with Coffee on Q's signature Elevate blend. Crafted in-house with precision, each sip delivers delightful flavour notes of strawberry, chocolate and marmalade. And here's the deal you won't want to miss. Coffee on Q is offering an exclusive discount to all our listeners. Simply use the code WBFT15 at checkout to enjoy an incredible 15% off all coffee purchases. That's right, WBFT15 is a key to savings, making sure you're properly awake to remember your next big embarrassing moment. Now, this code is valid for all coffee products, so make sure you stock up on your favourites. And the best part? You can use the code WBFT15 as many times as you like. So don't miss out on the opportunity to enjoy the finest coffee Melbourne has to offer. Simply visit Coffee on Q, and that's QCUE.com.au, and enter the discount code WBFT15 at checkout to unlock 15% off your next coffee order. That's WBFT15 at coffeeonq.com.au. Coffee on Q, where awkward moments pair perfectly with your daily cup.
So this is my third one, Now, when I was at uni, so it was 1999, I moved out of home at 17
Yep.
to do uni, and I didn't turn 18 until 6 months into thing. So I was at uni.
Brutal.
All my mates were going out to pubs, and I was sometimes could get in, sometimes just couldn't. Also, I looked 15, so it was like there's no
that's rough.
Yeah, so I had my brother's ID, and sometimes I get in, sometimes. But I grew up quite poor, and my parents were like, "Well, if you go to uni, we can't afford to pay for it, so you have to get a job." So I got a job. My dad worked for a construction company that specialised in just selling nuts and bolts.
Oh, yeah.
And they had an office. So he's from Burnie. They had an office in Launceston. Right. And he said, I could maybe see if you want to be just the store boy out there. Just do whatever they say. And I'm like, I just need a job.
Oh, okay. So just like the bits and bobs guy.
Yeah. So every Friday, all day Friday and Saturday morning, I'd go and do at Nubco. It was the company.
Oh, wow.
And so I was studying theatre and then working with proper tradies, not your Bunnings tradies. Yeah.
That are, I presume, not the biggest fans of theatre.
No.
Yeah.
No. And I was like an alien to them.
Yeah.
They were like, this kid, although, because I knew imperial measurement and metric measurement.
Oh, fuck, that would be handy as, actually.
I could get the screws and nuts that people wanted.
Yeah.
And they were like, this kid, I don't understand how he, I'm like, well, it's just.
Fucking genius.
They say what they want and it's written down and I just go and get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my whole job there was just move stuff around because I had a big old warehouse, dusty warehouse. It was like, just move stuff and try and make it clear. And this is a side note, but one of the things they sold there, they sold a sausage maker.
Okay,
so it was like you'd just like mince it up and it would go through, and then you'd put your.
Oh, they sell an actual sausage maker.
An actual sausage maker.
Sorry,
yeah.
one of those weird like tubing machines or whatever it is. Yeah,
and they wanted it on display so people can actually see what they look like, not just in the box. And so I had to put that together. And the guy got it like on the Monday.
Yep.
He tried to do it, couldn't do it. Then the other guy who worked there couldn't get it done. And so
good effort.
When I was there on Friday, they said, this will be your Friday job.
Yeah.
Try and get that done. Because they were just looking for stuff for me to do, really. Yeah. And then I got it done. And they're like, this is, how did you know how to do it? I'm like, well, I just read the instructions. Yeah. And they were the guys, they're the type of men who don't read instructions.
Oh, obviously,
they just look at it and say, anyway.
That's just part of the trash that you throw out with the,
So there was like 5 stores in Tassie, this Nubco.
Yep.
And all of them had sausage maker. And none of the other guys in the company could put it together.
Fucking hell.
So I went on a little tour of Tasmania just putting together sausage machines. And I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. But then I went into one of the staff rooms and on the calendar, they had the calendar with the whiteboard and stuff like that. And on the day I was there, it just said sausage boy. So I'm like, fucking hell, they're calling me sausage boy. But anyway,
I'm sure that they would have had plenty of jokes to go along with that as well.
Yes. Yeah. So I've already been established as sausage boy.
Yep.
So I was, my girlfriend at the time, we weren't living together, and I lived really close to the uni. She lived in the CBD of Launceston. Okay. And so that was more fun to go. And so I stayed at her house like 4 nights in a row.
Yeah, nice.
And didn't plan to stay there that long.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, my clothes stink. My undies, I didn't bring any undies.
Ooh.
And I'm going to her, and she's like, just borrow a pair of mine.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay. And so as a joke to her, I borrowed her most feminine undies. And just
of course.
Crammed myself in. So there's these little blue and white striped undies with this string kind of band around it. Didn't hold much.
Oh, comedian even back then.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just a theatre kid who was like, what is like gender? Who cares? We're all fluid. Yeah.
Just after moving out of home as well at that age, you're like, wow, everything, I don't have to be this. I don't, especially if you're saying you're growing up in a slightly like poorer income home. I was the same as well, where everyone's like, oh, yep. But then you're like, wow, I can play around with this stuff. This is crazy.
And also at the time, it was like Brian Molko from Placebo was out. Yeah. And so it was like, it was out there. And it was like, I'm going to...
Yeah, guys can wear eyeliner, man.
Yeah. Nail polish, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I'm wearing her underwear and I go to work. And also it was a funny thing going, these guys, I'm here at this kind of very macho kind of... Yeah. They don't know I've got women's underwear underneath.
And sausage boys just crammed into a tiny little bit of a pair of panties.
Anyway, so my job that day was to move one row, like a shelving, from one wall to the other side of the wall.
Oh, okay.
And they were like, just take everything off and move it.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking it off. And then it gets to the point where I'm like, I can't be fucked taking any more of this off.
Yeah.
I reckon I could slide it across.
Okay.
And so I'm like, it's like if I just keep the stuff on the bottom shelf.
Yeah.
So that way it won't topple over. Take all the stuff at the top. And then I'll just move it. And so I thought, all right, I'll do that. And so
This sounds like it's going to end well.
so I moved it and tore my sciatica and in my like ribs there, like just so much pain.
Yeah.
And I was like kind of trying not to show I was in pain, but it was like it's too much and I can't do my job.
Holy shit. That's a pretty decent injury as well.
Yeah, it was. And so my boss, who was also my dad's mate,
Yep.
they work for the same company. He knows my dad really well. Very fatherly, was like,
Yeah.
I'll drive you to hospital, okay? Because I was on my push. I didn't have a license. I was just riding my bike. So we can't, I'll drive to the hospital. And I'm like, oh, okay, just, I'll call my girlfriend and she'll meet me there. And and she goes, no, just can't, I'll just drive now. We'll just close up early. It's fine. And so he drives me to the hospital and then he had to carry me into the car.
Oh, holy shit.
Very like officer and a gentleman stuff. And then and then we go and he carries me into the hospital.
Yeah.
And they're like, even though I was in emergency, it was like, it's not an emergency.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'll just wait. That's wait. Like if my kid was with your dad, I would want your dad to wait. Like,
and he probably would have done the same.
Yeah. And he's like, I can't tell your dad that I just dropped you off and left you. I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
right.
you don't have to. And then, okay, so I go in and the doctor's like, all right, just get back on the bench, on the bed.
Yeah.
And he goes, all right, just undo your pants and we'll just have a look at everything. I'm like, so I undo my pants and then I've never seen two adult men look away quicker.
Wow.
Both of them were like, all right, yeah, put them back on. And so they definitely saw.
So they didn't
me.
even, like, holy shit.
Didn't say anything. And it was just me kind of going, oh, do I explain or do I just let it go and pretend it didn't happen?
Because the explanation sounds made up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like not that you should have to have an excuse for that. I mean, do what you want, obviously.
Yeah.
But like those kind of more traditional manly men probably wouldn't want to hear any kind of explanation as well, and will just never mention it again.
And the fact I was already nicknamed Sausage Boy amongst them. So it is that thing. And then like I worked there for another 3 weeks and then they were like, yeah, I reckon we're done. I reckon there's everything that we employed you for has been done. So I left after another 3 weeks.
Did your dad's mate ever say anything to you?
Dad never said no. We were not. My dad didn't say anything to me. My dad would say something because he'd find it very funny. Yeah, like even if he didn't even know the backstory, he'd just go, "What the fuck are you doing, mate? Like I got you this job, and what are you doing?" Like, yeah.
But did the chap that drove you to the hospital did he say anything next time we saw you? Make
Never.
eye contact with you again?
No, it was very, very awkward.
I could imagine. Yeah.
And even when he fired me, it was like, all right, yeah, so you've done well, and I'll write you a reference, but yeah, we just don't have anything here for you to do. Like initially, it was just going to be like a 6-week summer job, but you've stayed for like a year now. Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, all right, and then
far out.
But so that was 99, 2000.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Did anyone ever reach out to you again after they'd seen you on TV or anything? You're like, hey, Sausage Boy, we saw you on telly.
I think one of the guys who worked there, but I didn't know his surname.
Yep.
And I think he hit me up on Facebook when I was not so he's got kids, and I did a show on ABC Kids.
Oh yeah, nice.
Doing comedy on that, and he saw me. He said, "Oh, I was telling the kids I used to work with you, and they didn't believe me." And I was like, "I don't know
who you are."
Yeah, I don't know if we did work with. Maybe we did. Yeah, but I think but he's now selling real estate. He got out as well.
Oh dear, it's probably not a good person to stay in touch with in that case. But I'm always amazed by the people that hit you up afterwards, and I'm like, I don't know your name. Yeah, and I don't recognize your face, but that doesn't mean I don't not know you.
Has your high school had any high school reunions and stuff?
No. So I went to it might be nice now. I don't know, but it wasn't a good high school.
Yeah, I'm the same. But we had our 20-year one a few years ago now.
Oh, really?
And there was a woman at that who I had no recollection of. Everyone else I knew, and then she was just kind of talking to me, and to make conversation, I was like, "Oh, so who's your partner?" Yeah, and they're not here. And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Are you here?
And I was really trying to dig. And I'm like, I have, and she. she knew. She didn't say anything,
Oh.
but I could tell she knew that I had no idea who she was.
That's rough.
And then I felt really bad because I didn't want to go back there. And already with the fucking Mr. Big City Melbourne thinks he's better than us in Tassie. Yeah.
Oh, Mr. being on the ABC thinks he's too good, can't remember his little high school friends. Yeah. I haven't. My high school reunion would probably be in a few years' time if we had a 20-year one.
Yep.
But I haven't lived in Scotland for like 12 years, so I was a weird kid in high school, I'll be honest with you. I mean, theatre kid. Yeah. How are you not a weird kid? But like, I don't know if anyone would ever remember anything from me as well, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I didn't go to the 10-year one, but the 20-year one was nice.
Yeah.
And so that was 96. So we got another one in like 3 years.
Oh, yeah,
the 30-year one.
It's at that point you're like, I've not known you longer than I have known you now.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, I don't
we had
really
4 years.
understand.
Because in Tassie, high school's only 4 years.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, just up until year 10, and then you go off to what they call college.
Yeah, right.
And so, like, but in college, like, no one cares. There's no, there's a leavers dinner, but no one dresses up for it.
Yeah.
Everyone just goes, oh, cool, we'll go there, and everyone just gets drunk, and then, that's it.
What I'm always amazed by some, there's a little bit more in this country now as well, I suppose, but like graduations for years and graduations from high school. And I was like, we had a leavers dance or like a leavers thing where everyone just dressed up, tried to get as many fake IDs as they could, and then we all just got drunk in the Hibs football club, which is like the most Scottish thing in the world, except from half the people there are like, nah, fuck Hibs, man, I'm Hearts, and then the other half are like, on the fucking Hibs grounds.
Our leavers dinner, they did it so it was like 2 nights before the actual last day of school.
Oh, why would you do that?
And so I don't know, and so I didn't go to the party after the leavers dinner because it was like, no, the big party is the leavers, like, end of like graduation party. And our school did a thing where if you returned your lock from your locker, like the actual like dial lock, you got $12 back.
Oh, fuck. That's pretty decent.
Well, it was that weird thing where back then, this is 96.
Yeah.
For a slab of, for a 6-pack of beer, was $12.
Oh.
And so the school just I will make it 12 so they can all just get a 6-pack of beer. And so it was pretty much just going, all right, we'll go straight to BWS now.
Just cashing in a lock for a 6-pack.
But it was just this known thing. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Like you just go there. And
it's so funny that, isn't it? Like, I don't know what it's like now, obviously. I looked older than I did when I was underage. So I was always able to get sold in the local off licenses. And you're like, it was always £5 for 8 tins of cider.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, yeah, that's perfect. And you'd always just have like the perfect amount for that kind of stuff. And you're like, I'm obviously underage. I'm giving you pound coins to buy this stuff. But
so my friend Moya, in her ID, had a shaved head. And this was when I was 17. And she was like, just use my ID. Because I also had a shaved head. And her name's Moya Siobhan.
Oh, yeah.
And her surname, I won't say her surname.
Yeah.
But I just went there and that ID and I gave it to her. And the guy was like, Moya Siobhan. I said, it's Spanish. He went, all right, cool. And just, and it was like, great. This is off the back of me wearing women's underwear. But yes, I did have very feminine features.
No, again, like I think, country towns work against you and for you sometimes, I think.
Yeah, well, I had mates who got their license and their whole thing, they figured out if you book it on Friday afternoon, because you had to go to the cops and because it was a small town. They didn't have like actual like RAC, whatever it was. If you book it at like 3:30 on a Friday, all they'll get you to do is drive them to the bottle shop drive back because that's what and so I had like 4 or 5 guys go, this is the thing, you do it there. And because I was too young to get my license and then I moved to Launceston and they didn't have that system in Launceston.
Funny enough, how dare they?
Yeah.
But that stuff's like, again, I grew up in a very small country town as well, and you're like, there's some good parts like that, and then there's some other parts where you're like, there's like 7 people that live here, one of which I like, and then everyone else, you're just like, oh, I can't wait to fucking leave this place.
Yeah, I moved, I was so young when like 17, but even younger, even not even knowing at the end of year 12 what I was going to do, but I knew, all right, I like doing drama at school, so I'll do theatre. And the closest theatre like uni was in Launceston, which is the closest. Like, it's a 2-hour drive.
Yeah, far out.
Because I didn't drive, that 2 hours was like, might have been like...
Oh, it's a different country.
24 hours, yeah. And so it was great for me going, oh, this is where I'll learn who I am.
Yeah.
Like, I'm far enough away that no one knows me here, but I'm close enough that if something really goes bad, I can just
you can
pop
get
home
back
for 2 hours,
Yeah, I felt exactly the same. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, and then Edinburgh was the closest city, but that was like... hours drive probably, which again, like doesn't sound
Where
like
did you
a lot.
grow up? What
So I grew up in a place called Gifford in East Lothian.
is it near Hoyk?
No, no. But like it's again all those places, Hoyk, anywhere like that. It's just the middle of fucking nowhere,
Yeah.
which is funny for such a small like real estate of a country. Everything's so far apart, but it's tiny country. Like I think that we're definitely smaller than Victoria, the whole country. But like like an hour's drive is excuse me, so far away. So it's like, one of those things where you're like, wow, I can move up to the city now and I'm like a different person. I can find myself. But then whereas there was one pub where I grew up and then the town over had all the pubs where you'd go out to.
Yeah.
So I used to just go out like to the pubs on a Saturday night and I'd be like, it's either £10 home for a taxi, which is so much back then, or I'd just walk 7 miles home down dark little alleyways or like dark little country roads. Sorry, like no lights whatsoever.
Yeah.
I just have my creative zen, just listen back to back music and just like sober up by the time I got home.
I used to do the same thing. So my brother got married in Edinburgh. Or no, he got married in Hoyk, but he lived in Edinburgh for years. And so when we went over for the wedding, me and my wife were traveling. We thought, we haven't been to Scotland before. We'll hire a car and we'll travel around.
Yeah.
And we were in Aberdeen.
Oh, fucking hell.
Just for the night, and staying, and it was nice. We were at the pub, and because it's a uni town, really.
Yeah, it's a uni town and industrial town as well, yeah.
And so the people, they picked our accent, and so the staff were just going, so how long are you here for?
Yeah.
And I thought they meant like Scotland.
Yeah.
I was like, 3 weeks. And the guy was like, 3 weeks? What the fuck are you doing? That's the worst decision ever. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, there's nothing to do. I was like, well, tomorrow we're going to... And then they figured out. Because my brother, because he was in Edinburgh for 7 years or so.
Yeah, nice.
And I, being a big music fan, just wanted to go to Glasgow and...
Oh, of course,
go to King Tut's and all this kind of stuff.
There's the classic... Edinburgh's got a few of them, but like Glasgow has like the Barrowlands and stuff like that. You're like, oh, these are fucking... Like you might get stabbed going in or out, or maybe even in there.
That's what he said. He said, don't go there. You're going to get beat up, Josh.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not. And then we got the train from Edinburgh to Glasgow and it was such a beautiful day.
Yeah.
And we got off the train and this is like 2007. So you didn't have like internet on your phone.
No, fuck, it was...
It would have cost so much.
Yeah.
And so at the train station, there was a map. So we just took a photo of it on our phone and then would just like zoom in and try and find. And we were doing that. And this old bloke just came and started talking to us. And I was like, I couldn't understand what he was saying.
Oh, of course.
And I'm like, it's all right.
Yeah.
And then my wife was like, we're gonna get mugged here. We're gonna get stabbed. And then I figured out what he was saying was like, where you're staying, I'll walk you there.
Yeah.
And he was just an old bloke who just wanted to have a chat.
Yeah.
But it was so funny. Like Jason's like, as soon as you get off you're gonna get beat up in Glasgow. That's just what it is. And then it was like the absolute opposite. It was like the nicest guy I've ever met. Just going, oh, come walk here. Yeah, I just need to walk. It's 10 minutes down the road.
That's fine in Glasgow city centre. If you start straying a little further out, which you can walk to by accident, you're like, fuck, this is stabby ass. And it just like, it looks like certain places look like they've been through like a war, like panned in windows and fronts of buildings missing.
One year when I was in Edinburgh for the Fringe and I had like 2 weeks staying right on the Mile there, but then another week staying in Leith.
You stayed on the Mile?
Pretty much. It was
holy shit.
Just down wherever the stand, not the stand, no, the one of the big venues there. There was a little strip that I
wow.
It was near the Bank Hotel, but it was just down. Anyway,
yeah, nice.
And then I had a week in Leith.
Leith or Leith Walk?
Leith, I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
But I would walk back, and when I said it to a friend of mine who lives there, they're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, people are going to fucking kill you. I'm like, it's really nice. There's people out talking. Like, it's... And it's like, because in the daytime where I was like, this is beautiful, like nice green trees and beautiful like white streets. This is
fucking
great.
hilarious.
And then like, no, you're going to get killed. Like, you got to stop walking home drunk. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like,
that's the only reason I asked you is because Leith Walk, I don't know what it's like now. I haven't been back in a fair few years and maybe it's all been gentrified and nice now. But that is like the one strip of Edinburgh because it's essentially the city centre as well.
Yeah.
And it's the main route down to Leith or route. And like, it is just the sketchiest pubs. Genuinely people just like lying bleeding on the street. So many just people off their head on like heroin was always massive.
Yeah.
And then you've got like a little bit further up, you've got some beautiful theatres.
Yeah.
You've got some of the nicest architecture ever. And you can literally see down, like it's just one big straight walk and you just look down and it's just like the fucking, it's like honestly like a war zone down there and you're like, Yeah, fucking weird city, this one.
I missed all that. I did all right.
But again, I loved Edinburgh during the Fringe as well. Like, it's a different time.
Yeah, I've only been there twice.
Yeah.
And and it was that thing of like, they tell you, when the Fringe is on, the population increases 400%.
Yeah, people say that all the time.
But the supermarkets don't increase their food 400%.
No, not at all.
It's out.
every fucking chip shop does.
Yeah.
And that's all everybody eats there anyway. So
yeah,
you just live off fucking fried potatoes and like the stodgiest, soggiest meats in the world.
See, I was staying directly above a vegetarian restaurant, so I'd eat there pretty much every day. And people are going, I don't understand how you're doing Edinburgh and actually staying healthy. Like, I'm like, well, it's there. It's convenient. It's not that I'm like actively looking for it. It's like, it's the closest restaurant and it's really cheap and really nice.
Yeah, that's the funny thing as well, because Edinburgh's got some beautiful restaurants, but then every now and again, or not every now and again, all the time, you just see people. There's this one like famous chip shop which has like a disco rave in there every night as well, and then just fucking like deep fried chocolate bars all the time, and you're like, how are we still alive? Yeah. And also, why is that our like cultural thing as well?
No, the cultural thing that everyone wanted to show me, and I had to say, we've got that here in Australia. Brown sauce. And I was like, have you tried brown sauce? Is the best.
Did you do chippy sauce though?
I don't know what. No, I didn't.
So that's our cultural.
Okay.
So chippy sauce is essentially half and half malt vinegar and brown sauce.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is in every chippy in Edinburgh, not in Glasgow.
Yep.
They're salt and vinegar. We're salt and sauce. So, you know, a tale of two cities right there. But anyway, this is enough talking about fucking fast food, unhealthy Scottish lifestyles. We'll move on to the next story now.
No, that was my 3 stories.
Oh, was it? Oh, beautiful.
Yeah,
sorry. No, I was getting too lost in my own talking about, reminiscing about back home. But that was, perfect. Thank you. You've also, I always do a little bit of research on everyone before I come on as well. And I can understand if there's a little bit of a touchy topic as well, but we did host Spicks and Specs for the best part of a year as well.
Yes. So for those who don't know, this is a TV show. Is like, if you're in the UK, it's Australia's version of Nevermind the Buzzcocks, and it was hosted by Adam Hills for 7 years, and then it went away for 2 years, and then I hosted for a season.
Yeah.
And
so what was that? Like,
it's 2014.
Yeah.
So almost a decade ago now.
Yeah. Holy shit! Wow.
Well, would have been 10 years since I got the audition.
Yeah,
because we got the auditions maybe August. So
that's like, it's amazing as well. Like, it's such a big thing.
Yes, it was when TV kind of still meant. I mean, not that TV doesn't mean anything now, but it was like really like it was
TV rules.
One of those dream job kind of scenarios. You kind of you get the job and you think, my life is going to change.
Yeah, it seems like
spoiler alert, it didn't.
No, I was kind of dancing around that, saying that as well. But look, obviously, big boots to fill with Adam Hill, excuse me, and some of the ABC viewers are quite stuck in their ways, I want to say.
Absolutely, yes, and it was so beloved as well. So they really felt ownership of the show. And it was, it was me, Adam Richard, and Ella Hooper, the new crew. And look, we tried to stay it was really weird. One of those reviews, like, they're trying too much to be like the old people.
Yeah.
Or they're nothing like the old people.
Like, and what do you want then? Yeah.
And it was like, and my friends who watched it were like, you're just being yourself. It's really, you are being you on there. And I was like, I thought I was. Like, maybe just a politer version.
I remember at the time when it was on air, and I was like, these are just different people. Yeah. And again, never mind the Buzzcocks. They went through Phil Lamar and Simon Amstel, and like, they cycled through so many different people.
Yep.
And you're like, they change. It's fine.
So I knew of Spicks and Specs.
Yeah.
I'd been on an episode.
Yeah.
And I watched it. A friend of mine was on as well, so I watched that episode. But it wasn't something I sat down and watched, but I loved Simon Amstel's Nevermind the Buzzcocks.
Yeah, of course.
So I knew what I kind of wanted the show to be.
And what to bring to it.
And when I auditioned, that's what they wanted as well.
Yeah, nice.
They're like, we want to try and attract a younger audience, and we want you to just be you and be that kind of cheeky, but still like not rude to them, but like, And I was like, cool, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then after like the first episode went to air, it was like, all right, let's go back to what it used to be like, and our booking was different, and so it was this weird thing of like we were trying like first episode we had people from Tame Impala on, and then like Gosling and all these kind of like new up and coming artists who were very, very talented, and then it was like we need to find people, and we had a lot of opera singers on, and it was like they were great talent, but also it was like this is a really, I know the clientele you're going for, like it's not going to be the young people,
I know, right? And it's that weird kind of mix where you're like, all right, we'll keep the old ones happy, then
Yeah.
we'll try and bring in some new blood as well. And you're like, that rarely works,
Well,
honestly.
one of the guests I really pushed for was comedian Kyle Kinane. I think he's so funny, and I got him on, and then afterwards he was like, thanks for that, but like he goes, I didn't know what the show was. Like you had me sitting next to an opera singer, and opposite me was a pop singer, and he goes, I just felt like all my dirty stories was just going to upset people, and I was like, no, that's what I wanted. I wanted to see you like absolutely tee off,
and I think that's what like a great direction for the show to have gone in as well. And then that does become a little bit more like never mind the Buzzcocks as well, which is what it's modeled after. But I suppose 2014 kind of starting to get popular with social media.
Oh, very much so. So 2014 was when people really cared about, they'd watch TV and just tweet along hashtags, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, live tweeting, fuck yeah.
And it was weird because the first one, it was pretty much down the middle. It was like, even more positive in our, like, going, oh, this is fine. This is the same.
People knew they were coming into something different as well,
But then it was on every Facebook post, it was like really attacking me. It was like my voice, he talks too fast, all this kind of stuff. And that was, to go with the theme of this show, kind of embarrassing. Like, it's all kind of on my shoulders in terms of like, even though there's a lot of people working behind the scenes, it's like, it comes down to me.
You're the face.
Yeah. And so I bore the brunt of a lot of people's hatred for the entire show.
It's not just attacking your jokes as well. Like when they're saying like, I don't like his voice, he talks too fast. You're like, that's me as a person. I'm not playing a character just now.
The other thing for listeners who, I as a kid had 8 years of speech therapy. I was like pretty much non-verbal. I could be understood by my parents, but up until 5, anyone I spoke to was like, I don't understand what he's saying. So that's why my parents kind of pushed me to do what they called speech and drama at school, and then got into that. And then, so that was kind of one of those things was like, oh, this is like bringing back stuff I kind of repressed as a kid, like the teasing of being like not being able to speak or read out loud properly.
Yeah, isn't that?
And it was like one of those things going, oh, this is going to come up later.
Yeah. Fuck, that's so sad as well. And then like, I can understand being like, I don't like this new format. I don't like the jokes. I don't like the guests, blah, blah, blah. But then like personally attacking people. And it is like one of those things where you're like, you don't really process it so much in the time, especially if you do have things like that. Because I'm sort of similar as well. I got Asperger's, and I found like speech and drama really helped to be able to emote and like actually understand what emotions were meant to look like. But then it's like some people come on and just like fucking slate you for certain things.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh fuck, this is bringing up a lot more stuff than I think that they would realize as well. But you're like, what do you expect when you're just openly attacking people for them to see as well?
See, so we did a full season, and then after, it was a really manipulated way how they kind of not axed it, but kind of stopped doing it, because they said, oh, we're gonna in 3 weeks we'll stop doing it, and because the ratings weren't great. The ratings are fine, and they would kill for the ratings if it was today.
That's the irony, isn't it?
But it was that thing of like, so they announced it the week that we were up against State of Origin, which is huge, and never did well. Like even up against the old like series, like the show never like rated well.
State of Origin's a massive rugby league contest, 3 games.
Everyone
played.
in New South Wales and everyone in Queensland loves it.
Oh, it's their life.
So that's like almost a third of the country.
Yeah.
And then sports fans around the country are like, I don't care about rugby, but I will watch this game.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, and then they said in 3 weeks, I think we'll go off air. And that was the next State of Origin game. And so we're up against, like, when they announced it, they went, see, the ratings are down. And then the last one, it was kind of like, And then they had 6 episodes they hadn't aired yet. And they kind of just put them on 8 o'clock on a Friday in summer. But I didn't even know. Like, that's the thing. You think they'd tell someone who worked on the show so I can promote it, or
I'm always amazed by the complete lack sometimes of communication from and it's not all productions obviously, but like behind the production side, being like, surely you want me to spruik this for you? Like I'm happy to. I'm happy with the work I did on it. Like, but just let me know when it's out. Yeah.
And so the day that they announced it was not gonna be on air anymore was also the day that my wife gave birth to my youngest son.
Holy shit.
And so it was a huge emotional thing where I'm like, well, I can't think about this because I've got to not deal with it. I've got to support my wife and my other child.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty important thing. But then it was so So Henry was born on a Friday.
Yep.
And then on the Monday, do you have kids?
No, myself.
So you've got to actually, register them as human beings.
Yeah, no, it
with everything.
comes in handy later in life.
And so on the Monday, I had to go to Centrelink, which is where they have births, deaths, and marriages, and register my son. But in my head, I'm thinking, I've just been publicly fired.
Yeah.
Well, not fired, but like not renewed.
Let go, yeah.
And now I'm standing in line at Centrelink. This is... If anyone says anything, I have to go, oh, no, my son was born. They're not going to believe that.
No,
they're going to think,
Yeah, you trying to come up with an excuse why you're wearing women's underwear again as well.
And it was a real thing. I'm going, this is so fucking ridiculous that I'm like, but, you just got to do it. And so, that was one of those career kind of embarrassed, but also I'm now on the side where I'm really proud of the show. I thought the show did as well as it was allowed to do.
Yeah. And again, like, I wouldn't say this to everyone's show, but like I thought for what you're allowed to do, it was good. Like it was, and it's not like I don't know. I'm British, so I'm like it's not. Never mind the buzzcocks, obviously, but it's never going to be.
No.
Yeah.
And I still say our first season was just as good as the original first season.
Yeah,
as in like their season 1, we were still learning the show. We had the benefit of them realizing like all the production stuff, what worked and what didn't work.
Yeah.
But we were like, I'd never worked on TV before.
Yeah. And not only like not on TV, but now you're the fucking figurehead.
Yeah.
Like everything has to fall back onto you as well. If the part's not going well, you're like, I have to save this.
Yeah. And that was the thing of like, it was like, and we'd always get the live shows do really well.
Yeah.
And then just because of the way Adam and I speak to each other, a lot of, we can't play that on. It's a PG show. I'm like, but that's the funny. I'm sorry, and that is on us. But we were having fun in the 2-hour record.
Yeah, I know, right?
So,
and you're like, all right, well, maybe we can try a different style for this show as well. Like, we can move it in a different direction, which is what people kind of want to see anyway. To be honest with you.
Well, I think that whole formula. I think Have You Been Paying Attention is still really, really good. I think people really love that show, but I don't know. I mean, Speaks and Specs is back on, and so people still love it. But the new panel shows in Australia really struggle. Like even Have You Been Paying Attention? That started when my version of Speaks and Specs started, and it was bounced around three different time slots until they kind of Working Dog did the work and went, we're just going to stick with this, and we'll find our audience, and we'll get. And it's a thing like, I mean, the classic Lorne Michaels from Saturday Night Live just going, we won't know what this show is in 6 months. And then the NBC producer going, all right, well, I'll watch it in 6 months then. Yeah. And they just had 6 months to figure out what it was.
That's what you need as well. Like that's not to harp on or complain about things, but like Netflix is classic for like, we've done one season. Yeah. It didn't get the ratings we wanted. Yeah. It's off the platform and gone forever now. Yeah. You need to give things time to breathe. And
especially with streaming stuff where it's made before it's like everything's made. Yeah. And then they air it. And then you kind of see what the audience are kind of, we have issues with this bit. Yeah. And there's no time for a second season to go, all right, well, now we can fix that.
Yeah. And then people are like, well, I'm not going to watch one season of this unheard show because they're not going to get a second season, so nothing's going to pay off in it.
Yeah. TV is so fickle. I mean, it's one of those things, and I do feel weird when I complain about it because, like, I always think 13, 14-year-old me, one season, that's it. Absolutely, I'd do that in a heartbeat. And that's the other thing. If they just said, hey, this is only going to be one season, do you want to do it? Yeah. Yes, I'd do it. Yeah. Yeah. If I knew going in, it's only going to be one season. But then in that point where you're like, well, if I get a second season, then I can get more money, and then this is there.
And then you start planning out. You're like, well, this could be a really good career path. Like, I could definitely just do this for like 10 years. Yeah. Buy a fucking house. It'd be lovely. I'd love this. But it's all right. I think that's what's good about, not good. It's what you learn to never get excited by anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say the day I got it was I had 10 minutes of pure, this is great. I get to tell my wife that I've got it. Yep. I didn't tell anyone else.
Yep. Smart.
And driving, because I was doing a radio show at the time and I had to do it that night. So I drove. I had 10 minutes of just being happy and then drove in, and then everything hit me going, oh, fuck, this is... And it was that thing of like, this might not work. Yeah. Oh, well. And then having to go, all right, well, I've got to quit my job. I was working at a library. I have to quit that, but I can't tell them why I'm quitting. Yep. I've got to quit my radio show. Can't tell them why. Yeah. And it was all this thing going, and then a few people thought, he's got a job writing on something. Yeah. That was
right.
That was yeah. And so, but
and And it's as well, you're like, oh, I quit that, but then am I going to have to come back with my tail between my legs a year
that was
later and ask for this job back again?
Well, I did for that library job, and it was great. But it was that thing of like when I got there, the first day because I asked for the job back, and they were very happy to give it to me. But and someone who worked there, not in my department, was like, "Oh, I bet you're hating doing this now." I'm like, "No, this is what I need. Like, I need like this."
The entire fucking thing's not resting on my shoulders here. Like, I can just do it and go home. Yeah.
And you do have that. Like, it never happens now, but it was for a while. Going, where do I know you from? And I don't want it to be the whole. I used to host this, but now I just say comedy. So it's like, I do comedy. Maybe you see me. That's it.
I always just say I'm just an average white guy. I just look like everyone else. You don't know me, trust me. The accent gives it away a little bit more, but then everybody's just like, it just sounds weird, and he looks like everyone else, I suppose.
Yeah.
But that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing all that with us.
That's all right.
We'll bring this to an end now. What do you have coming up? Where can people find you?
I have a podcast called 100% Hits Volume Pod, which is looking at the compilation series 100% Hits. Not long to go. We're almost done all of them. So it started in 91 and we go up to 2003. I'm currently at the year 2000.
Yeah, nice.
And so every week, every Thursday morning, everywhere you get podcasts.
And they're, for any of our British listeners, they're very much like the Now CDs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now that's what I call music. Yeah. So I think very similar. I think they're even the same label.
Oh, are they?
They may be, yeah.
Sneaky. But I'm always amazed by what makes it onto them sometimes as well, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I had someone who worked at the label come on and say, "Oh, that's just marketing. That's just the sales team just going, we need to pay for this album, so put it on this so they get a few more, so we can actually
holy shit.
Yeah, pay for it.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Because those compilations for a while were the highest selling CDs for the year in this country, and so it floated the record label.
Yeah. I mean, make your money, I suppose, but I remember getting them it always came out around about Christmas time.
Yeah. Well, these came out every 3 months, but you'd always tell like on the Hit Machine ones, which is what I do on my Patreon, but if they've just all come back from Berlin, because it's like all this like dance, like house music, Berlin house music. And I was like, you guys just want to go to Berlin, like, or Ibiza is another one. Like, all this dance music. You've just been to Ibiza. That's it.
They know what they're doing. And honestly, like, they're not making high art, so fucking why not?
No, it's pop
Get
music.
Business trips over there. Yeah, I remember there was one, now that's what I call music, back in the day, and it had a song from South Park on it. And I think that was genuinely like my most played song that year.
Was it Salty Balls? Yeah, great.
As a child, I wrote down the recipe and I was like, I'm going to make this. And then my parents like, why are you writing down this song lyrics from somebody talking about their balls?
They love to end it with a novelty song.
Yeah.
There's so many that it's like ended on a novelty song. It's great.
Absolute great stuff. But yes, you can find you across all podcasting platforms for that one. And then you've got your Don't You Know Who I Am as well, that's still on Patreon and live shows.
Yeah, so and even if you've never heard, that's all still on every podcast network as well, or platform. So it's called Don't You Know Who I Am. It's a quiz show where I get 4 comedians, mostly comedians, sometimes other people from outside as well. And it's a quiz all about their lives. A bit like Would I Lie to You, a bit like a panel show. It's kind of like and there's over 320 episodes out
Holy
there
shit, 320
for you to listen to. Yeah,
I genuinely recommend that as well. I absolutely fucking loved it when it was free to air as well. Like, it's still great now, obviously, but like, go back and listen to that back catalogue. It's some of the most bizarre fucking stories you'll ever hear.
Yes, it's great. Big names too. So people like James Acaster, Phil Wang, Ronnie Chang, Ross Noble, heaps of people.
Yeah, so good as well. And then do you have any dates for any upcoming shows?
Got nothing coming up. Nothing. Just doing local clubs, but nothing. I'm writing new gear. So
very nice.
So I don't want to announce it yet.
Getting ready for Comedy Festival?
Getting ready to do a brand new hour.
Oh, exciting. Yeah. So everyone can find you on Instagram?
Instagram at Mr. Josh Earl, and then whatever Threads is, which has just been announced today, which is the new Twitter that Mark Zuckerberg's released.
Oh, Jesus, I missed that. That sounds like a fucking nightmare.
It's called Threads. It looks like Twitter. It's just, it's through Instagram, and it's weird, and who knows?
Oh, God, I don't know. Oh, fuck. I'm going to definitely check this out, but yeah, I don't know if you'll be finding me on there anytime soon, I'll be honest with you. If it's anything like Twitter, you definitely won't be, I'll be honest.
So this is, I should say, this is Thursday the 6th we're recording this.
Yes,
so
and this will be released on Friday the, what would that be, 8th?
If it's today's
Sorry, Friday the 7th.
Friday the 7th. Oh, okay. So
No. Oh, Jesus Christ. No.
The 15th?
Yes, the 15th. I'm so sorry. It's been a long week.
We'll see if threads are still going by the 14th.
I reckon they've tanked themselves and they've completely killed the metaverse by then. So this has completely been dated already.
I love it.
Or some incredibly problematic stuff's come up on it and we've just got ourselves cancelled in hindsight. Yeah. But anyway, as the same as every week, you can find the podcast on Won't Be Forgetting That Pod across most social media platforms. You can find myself, Seb Muirhead, Muirhead, across YouTube and Instagram. What I would really appreciate is if you could subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, leave a review, even just tell a friend. Like, genuinely, that stuff really does help. But once again, Josh, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks, Seb.